okay, I'm going to take this picture. You have to stay still for 10 seconds. I'm going to dance around you with the glow stick. I'm going to flash you so I can see your face. And then I'm going to show you the picture.
Today's guest is wild woman Susan Magnano. She's renowned for her expertise in light painting, long exposures, night photography, and she experiments and pushes the boundaries of visual art. As an award-winning photographer with decades of experience, Susan is a respected educator in the industry. She now shares her innovative techniques on her photo adventures, where others can experience her passion for photography and travel. An ambassador for Benro USA, Nanlite, Nisi Optic USA, and more, Susan shares her unique style and light painting techniques in her Luminescent Portraits series. Find out more about Susan and her work at Pho, Tour, Tour, adventures.com. Now on to the episode. Let's go.
I see a timer.
Susan was like, have we started the podcast now or do we have to press go? And I'm like, I'll just press go because why not? We were just talking and I was asking her some questions and I'm like, oh yeah, we should probably just be recording this stuff.
It's all good stuff. Can't go wrong here.
Right? Right? We can never go wrong. Oh my goodness. So a little backstory for y'all. Susan and I met Susan at the Outsiders Conference in 2021. I think it was March 2021. And you and I had like brief conversation and I was kind of like newer into the photography world. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would love to connect. Like, I kind of felt like I would love to talk to Susan more if I ever had a chance to. And now that I have this podcast, I really feel like it's my own personal like way of getting to connect with all these like amazing people, yourself included.
I love it. Thank you. I'm glad you have your little personal connection to all, and I'm glad to be a part of it. It's been a long time coming, apparently.
Right. Exactly.
It's been a long time since 21. So I'm so happy we could reconnect. And I remember meeting you and hearing about your podcast, and I thought, what a clever name, the original podcast.
Oh, A Creative
The
Affair. Mm-hmm.
Affair. I thought that was brilliant. And then also, I could never forget you because your name is Brie, and I don't know many Bries, and I love Brie cheese. So I was like, this girl's unforgettable. I remember connecting you on many different levels.
I'm glad I'm unforgettable. Well, you know what's funny is I knew my name was a cheese and I got teased endlessly because once kids found out that I was the name of a cheese.
Kids are so mean.
You think you would go backwards and be like, this kid shouldn't tease you. But I actually think it helped me build up my, like, I don't really care what you have to say, like negative about
That's
me
good.
attitude. Do you know what I mean? And so I think,
Yeah.
I think that helped me with that. And also, I was like, Brie cheese, what is that? Because we ate cheddar, you know?
Yeah. Brie's a very sophisticated cheese. I grew up with cheddar as well, or American.
Yeah.
Brie's only something I've developed in my adult life.
Right.
Liking.
And then now for some reason, I think, I give myself permission to like eat all of the cheeses. So I like try, like everywhere I go, I'm like, ooh, I should try that one. Ooh, I should try that one. Okay. So I used to not like Brie because it was different. It's a different texture. It has the rind. It's just different than a cheddar. And so I didn't used to like it. And then as my palate changed and developed as I grew, I'm like, oh, I do like Brie. And now I actually like more pungent cheeses. So right now, my favorite is a triple cream French, which is, and it's called a Dauphinois.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to look that one up. That sounds delicious.
Oh, and by the way, I'm not named after a cheese. I'm named after, my husband loves telling the story. I'm named after a prostitute.
Oh, well, even better.
You guys didn't come here for Susan's stories. I'm just kidding.
So let's keep going. I'm happy to be the interviewer today, right? And you can be the interviewer.
Right? So my mom, I said, where did you get this name? Like, come on, it's not regular, right? Because I have a sister named Rachel and I have a sister named Andrea. You know, these are like more,
Boring, boring.
yeah. So she said, "Oh, well, I saw a movie with Jane Fonda. It's called Clute, and she plays a prostitute, and her name is Brie. And I liked the name. So here you are." And I'm like, great. And so now my husband is like, "Hi, meet my wife, Brie. She's named after a prostitute." I know on more than one occasion he has done this things. But I mean, you have to like gauge your company, but still, it's funny.
Sure, sure. The crowd pleaser, I'm sure, for most crowds, at least.
I mean, you know, how can you not engage when, you know, you're like, wait, what? Tell me more. Also, you're a cheese. So, anyway, makes for some fun.
It's fabulous. Of course.
Right, right. Okay, so Susan, you have a normal name, but you do not do normal things,
Sometimes I do, most times I don't.
right? Well, I have seen you on Instagram um go to like Vegas, and you've been at Burning Man, and you've got like you have photographs of all of these like super interesting looking people. So I've given like the audience a little snippet of what you like your mini bio, but will you just tell us more about what you do before we get into the like behind the scenes?
Sure. So I've been a photographer for over, I think, 25 years now. I hate adding more and more years to it. But I started out doing photojournalism. I was a student in high school. I actually got injured playing soccer. I was on the varsity team, and I spent the season on the bench. And I remember being so upset. But the one redeeming thing out of that one moment was I was watching the photographer run back and forth and take pictures, and I go, man, if I can't be playing in the game, I want to be shooting the game. So I remember walking over to him with my crutches and being like, how do I get to do what you do? And he said, here's the name of, the head editor, see if you could do an internship. So in high school, I did my first internship as a photojournalist doing film. So that's just giving you a little bit of time. And they started printing my pictures in the newspaper. And I was hooked because I loved the idea of sharing my moments, sharing these exciting things that I was able to capture with a huge audience. I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So from high school on, I went on to do event photography, weddings, portraits, whatever I could kind of get my hands in. I was doing internships with food photographers, and I kind of diversified my whole portfolio trying to see where I would end up. And I ended up loving it all. I mean, as a freelance photographer, a lot of you guys know that you need to kind of do it all. And that's what I was doing. I was doing everything. And I started doing set photography. So I'd work on TV shows, I was doing events, I was doing everything. And um, then I had a friend ask me, "Hey, you're doing all these great things. Why don't you come and teach with me?" And I was like, "You know what? I don't know if I know enough to teach." And I think a lot of people feel that way. You're like, "Do I know everything? I don't think. I'm still learning things. I don't know if I want to be teaching these people." And I did it. And it was a fall photography workshop. And I remember falling in love with teaching because I was like, "Wow, there's so much I know." And then even for the advanced students, I even knew like stuff to show them. And I was like, this is actually more exciting than taking the picture. And from that moment on, I go, okay, I need to put myself in more positions where I can show what I know and also develop better skills on how to teach it. And I think that's how all photographers are, actually how all educators are. As long as you have the desire to teach, you want to learn the best way to teach. So since then, I've been teaching photography workshops as well. I teach photography workshops where I travel around the world, and I do them internationally as well as around the States. And I just like fall in love with sharing what I know and then also sharing the experience. Because not only am I a teacher, but I'm a experience cultivator. Like I take people to my favorite spots at the best time so they can share a similar experience to something that I would have loved to see and capture. So that's kind of my juice at the moment is I do full-time teaching, and I still do events and all those other things that kind of trickle in my way, but that's where I am at the moment.
Awesome. I love hearing like your backstory. You know, one of the interesting things about photography is that sometimes we make money doing photography, but most often we are actually the business of photography is actually education. And someone asked me, "Oh, are you a professional photographer?" And I'm like, "That's an interesting question." Like, yes, I guess. But also, I feel like I'm more of an educator. Like, I feel like photography is something that I do for me, but it's the education portion that I love, that I also love doing. And so it's kind of funny, like kind of an interesting space, because if you do professional photography, I feel like most of us end up being the educators because we have this like body of knowledge that we, whatever our expertise is, that we can share with other people. And because we have it, it's so easy to like, you and I seem like we're like maybe a little bit more social, but also we're like we can connect easily with people. And so bringing them into our space and saying, here's what I know, and come and experience this thing that I love, which you mentioned, is really fun to do. And, can kind of be, I mean, I don't even know like how we get paid to do these things because it's fun.
I wonder this too sometimes. Trust. A lot of people trust us.
Right? So I know you do a lot of light painting, which is so
Mm.
fun to watch. If you guys go to Susan's Instagram, which I'll include in the episode notes, feel free to go there right now while we're talking and just listen to the episode and look through her stuff. That's my invitation to you to go do that, because then you'll understand more of like what she does. And do you only do like light painting workshops, or do you do other stuff too?
Oh, no, I do everything. So light
Yeah.
painting is like my passion.
Yeah,
If
so
you ever
fun.
have something that you do every day and just like you fall in love with and you lose track of time, that is when I'm light painting. And the truth is I've been a photographer for all those years, but I don't always feel like I'm an artist when I'm doing photography because a lot of things I'm doing, I'm just capturing what's happening.
Right.
Like, I feel that way about weddings and like, yeah, you could get creative angles and capture the special moment, but I'm actually not incorporating a vision into that. It's really just I'm capturing the photojournalistic abilities are coming out. But when I'm light painting, I'm like cultivating everything out of the darkness. So for those of you who don't know what light painting is long exposure photography at night. And basically I'm starting off with a black background, darkness. It's me in the dark with my camera on a tripod, and I'll go to a cool location and I'll paint in the scene, whether it's with a flashlight. I can like illuminate a mountain or a cactus, or if I have a model there, I can light paint her in and then also put lights around her. So, a couple different stages of it is light painting when you're lighting up the background or your subject, and then light drawing when you're actually drawing inside on your screen when you're actually drawing, like if you're a painter. And that's how I feel like I am when I'm doing my light painting. I'm like an artist, and the flashlights are my tools, and I have brushes, and I have glow sticks, and I have wands and tubes, and now I'm actually a part of all my pictures. It's kind of like an interesting selfie. You don't see me because I'm dancing around in the dark, but it's a way for me to be expressive in my photos and to actually create the artwork that I want. So it actually makes it feel like a true artist, not like I do in a lot of the other types of photography that I do.
Your body language just totally changed when you started talking about the light painting.
It gets me really excited. I gotta show you how I do it.
Do you ever do, like, videos where it shows you like, you would need a separate camera to
Sure.
yeah, I need to go and watch some of those, because like, do you put them on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, I do behind the scenes all the time. So, because it's actually quite fun to see how you go from, like, the end game to, like, the making of, because it seems like a crazy dance in the dark, and, that's the fun part of it as well. And then I like to also incorporate other people to get involved, so then the picture takes on a bigger life form, then there's more people doing different elements, and it becomes more complex. But, yeah, that's not the only thing I teach. I do love teaching it because I feel like anybody can do it. You don't need an expensive camera. You don't need even expensive tools. You could use a headlamp and, some parchment paper and a flashlight and dance around, or even your phone. You can use the LCD of your phone, and people just love it. Once they like once they experience it, it's like a drug almost because you're like, let me try it again. Let me try this. And even my parents who are not photographers, I get them to do it sometimes and they really enjoy it as well. So it's just a fun thing to get your creative juices running.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, maybe one day soon I will try it.
We're gonna have to get you light painting, Brie.
I
Yes,
know.
we're gonna have to get you.
I know. Can we be in the same place at the same time?
Come to Arkansas for the solar eclipse.
Oh, shoot. I okay, pause. Pause the conversation. I'm in Austin, and I am in the path of totality. 100% I am not leaving my house.
Forget that.
Yeah, it's so fun because 'cause we're gonna go to the lake with some friends and have a good time, and I don't really need to travel anywhere, and, to be honest, I know I'm a photographer, but I'm not even gonna photograph it.
Experience it. That's a once in a lifetime experience, right? So why not?
I know. I have my special glasses. I'm just gonna enjoy. Yeah, it's just gonna be something I experience. So I'm super happy with that, right? Okay. So another day I will our paths will align and cross over. Um, Tell me, has have you had a favorite time that you've done this?
Well, I just did a light painting workshop and I do it in this ghost town right outside of Nelson.
Ooh,
So I do a lot of light painting on all my workshops, but this one was specifically only for people who wanted to come hang out in the darkness. And we had models come. We lit up cactuses, we lit up barns, we lit up cars, and we lit up models. And I have to say it was so fun because it was dedicated to only this. So we didn't no one was worried about waking up for sunrise. No one was worried about staying out too late. We all had our passion and it was great to watch everyone's creativity build during the whole it was a 3 night workshop. So it was fun to see how it kind of grew every night. Everyone got a little bit more bold, a little bit more courageous. And it's such a great venue, this ghost town I go to, because it's kind of like a curated movie set. So you have all these great things, and the only things you have to worry about is some rattlesnakes. Who cares about that? They're hiding in the darkness anyway. They're in the dark and it's cold. They're probably somewhere else. So, and some cactuses. So, and the ghosts, if you believe in ghosts, those would be the only things that you have to really not let your mind wander and think about.
do you think a ghost has appeared? I'm a believer. I also believe in aliens, but,
Okay.
do you think a ghost has ever appeared in one of your photos?
I'd like to, we can take this a whole different route. I'd like to hear more about ghosts and aliens.
Okay, let's get you to go to Roswell next.
Ooh,
Light
I did
painting
go
in
to
Roswell.
Roswell, New Mexico recently. I would love that. I need to find the perfect background. Oh, I know. I
Where?
have a place. Um, it was I've only been there like once a long time last year, but it was like kind of like a pullover tourist thing, but there was like a plane and you could pose in front of it, but it could make for a cool background, I think. But would there be aliens coming to this tourist spot? Probably not. Maybe ghosts. Who knows?
I don't know. You might need to do it out in, like, Marfa or something.
Yeah, something a little bit more obscure. But in terms of photographing ghosts, I don't know. I don't know if I've photographed any ghosts, real ghosts. Mm,
Well,
I
if
don't
it's
think
long
so.
exposure, they might come and go through the photo and you would never know.
That's true. They might come in ghost. I did shoot a wedding once. It was actually my friend's wedding, and, I was actually in the wedding, so I don't think I actually shot it, so I take it all back. This is, I was her my maid of honor, and she got married in this old botanical garden, and then everyone stayed in the botanical garden castle, and I did not, because I was like, "You know what? I live, like, 10 minutes from here, and it's a lot of money, and B, I didn't have anyone to spend the night with, and I didn't want to stay in like a haunted castle by myself. If I had a partner or a boyfriend, I would have totally done that and spent the money. But I was like, me by myself with this haunted castle? Hell no. But we took all these pictures and they had all the orbs in it, and it could be dust or it could have been ghosts. I'd like to say ghosts because it's just a better story.
It is a better story.
It's like, orbs back. Yep, they're all over the place and all the pictures.
Ooh,
So,
I bet it was, and I wouldn't have stayed there either if I lived 10 minutes away. I mean, like, it's like your own bed. Come on.
I know. Tell me about your ghost story.
Oh, I don't know if I have a ghost story.
Oh, I thought you photographed ghosts all the
No, no,
time.
I believe they're out there, but I've never seen one. Now that we've mentioned it, it's totally gonna happen, isn't it?
Next podcast, talk about it. Ghosts. Maybe you could have a
Right.
ghost on your next podcast.
But,
You get a lot more people watching.
well, I actually, I was just on a backpacking trip and I got up one time to photograph the Milky Way. And I'm not a night photographer, so I have no idea what I got, but I'm like, "Oh, this night photography thing. I don't think I'm not cut out for it. I wanna, like, get up early or, I wanna just go to bed after twilight." So,
We're very different people.
I know.
That's why you don't see ghosts either. Definitely why. The ghosts come out after the sun goes out. You are going to bed. I see how you haven't
My
seen them.
eyes are closed. Done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I got my all my things on. That's right. Yeah, I can't even hear them. So, that is why. Okay, well, if you ever see one and you're one of these places, you need to tell me. You'd be like, "Brie, I finally saw one."
I'll come back on the podcast. I saw one. Let's do it. I have pictures. We light painted together. It was really cool.
That's
It'll
right.
happen.
That's right. It was the friendly sheriff from the ghost town. I don't know.
I'll be into
Yeah, right? Who knows? I
them.
know. So many, like, haunted places you could go, I guess. Ugh. All right. Well, maybe we'll have to get someone who's a ghost hunter on. I don't know. I have really loved watching some of the complicated things that you've done. And sometimes I see models and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where's she getting those from?" So tell me,
Hmm.
tell me the different I know you've been to, like, Ghost Town, but I think you've been to, like, Burning Man.
I've been to Burning Man, yeah, 3 times. The reason why I started going to Burning Man was to do light painting there because the people look so unique. So for those of you who don't know about Burning Man, it is an event that happens in the middle of the desert of Nevada, and it is a week-long festival, but they don't call it a festival. It's a week-long event where people come and you can, express yourself however you want. You have to become self-sufficient. It's all about creating an environment where everyone is cohesive and welcomed in and being artistic and expressionate. So it's a really, really unique event. And it's like kind of a utopia. It's a lot of art pieces, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of music. So when I decided to go, I would always see the pictures of the people and they come dressed almost next to nothing, but in really cool bikinis and I don't know, rabbit hats and masks and just really everyone's unique in and of itself. So when I went there, I said, okay, you have to come. You don't have to, but it's nice if you come with the playa gift. So that means when you go there, you don't actually buy anything for the whole week. You have to come self-sufficient and then you gift people things and they'll gift you things back. So my playa gift was to do light painting pictures at sunset or at blue hour or at any time of the night. So when I go there, I say, okay, I do anything I want during the whole day. And then I get my camera and then I go out at nighttime and I create these portraits for everybody. And my favorite part of it was everyone's reaction because, they would just be shock and awe. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to take this picture. You have to stay still for 10 seconds. I'm going to dance around you with a glow stick. I'm going to flash you so I can see your face. And then I'm going to show you the picture. And their expressions would always be jaw dropped. Wow, how did you do that? And maybe that's also why I liked going so much because it was always a shock and awe of all the attendees. And also, they always look so cool and we're so grateful. So it was like the perfect environment to like hone my skill and like create some great portraits of these people and also to share what I love to do. So that was my Burning Man experience. I don't know if I'm going back this year. I went last year to one actually in Miami. There's something called Miami Love Burn. I'm sure there's probably something in Texas. If you looked hard enough, maybe you could find it. But it was really fun. And this year I might take a skip. I have a lot on my agenda, and maybe regroup next year. But we'll see. Who knows? I might get pulled into that direction. But if anyone has a chance to go to Burning Man, I totally recommend it. It's a great experience just to like let down the world we live in is very always thinking about, what we have to do next in our to-do list. When you go there, you kind of have to let everything go and you're actually truly in the moment. And that's why I like light painting too, because I have to truly be in the moment to think through what I'm doing. That also you feel that way when you're there because you're disconnected and you're just really experiencing life as it unfolds in front of you.
So do you wear a costume?
Oh, I have a couple. I'm probably the
Susan's
boring
spiked
person here.
bikini. Sorry.
Nothing like that. I had a tutu because there's a tutu Tuesday. Everybody has to wear a tutu. So I had a corset and a colorful tutu that I wore one day, and I probably wore for like 2 hours, and then I go, "This is so uncomfortable," and I went and changed into something else. But I'm just not expressionate with my wardrobe. As you can see, I'm wearing a V-neck T-shirt. It's just not my thing. If I could have someone wardrobe style me, I would be a happier person because it's just not how I like to express myself. I'm pretty boring. So when I go there, I actually have to like push myself. Like Susan, do something unique. Don't just show up. You can't be dressed like this there. So I'll wear a couple weird things, but it's not in my arsenal to do that.
So maybe somebody wants to volunteer to be Susan's Susan's Burning Man stylist for the next time.
If
We're
anyone
gonna
wants to style me, whether it's with the Halloween costumes or some old things, let me know. I'd love to take them on.
Wouldn't that be fun? Oh my gosh. What I think is interesting about Burning Man, and this podcast is not about Burning Man, but as a side note, I think it's interesting that so many people come and like these big structures are built and the end culmination, right, is the Burning Man, right? That you build the burning guy gets built or whatever it is gets built and then it burns. And then actually they're supposed to clean up. You're supposed to leave the playa as it was before. So like everything gets
Mhm,
cleaned, nails, construction things.
mhm,
Like it's so interesting.
everything.
Right. It's so
Like,
interesting.
there's, like, a whole, group that goes out afterwards, and, basically, in order to stay there, you have to be with the camp. So, you can apply to be with camps. Camps are sometimes looking for people to be a part of it, and you kinda do not an interview, but they kinda assess that if you'll be a good fit. So, your camp is allotted a certain property, like a camping area, and then they'll go through and they'll sweep your camp, and if they find stuff, then your camp won't be allowed to come back. So they're graded on like every plot of land is if they find you left like nails or tape or something or garbage, forget about that. Like if you have a bag of garbage on your property, like they're not going to invite you to come back. And it takes a lot of effort to get invited to be there to begin with because Burning Man's a hard to get ticket, like it's expensive. It's not easy. It's not fun when you're there the whole time because you're living on the desert and it's hot. It can be like 90 degrees. You're sweating. There's not that many showers. Your camp can provide you one. There's porta potties if you want to use a porta potty, but you're really living in a alternate universe. And that's part of the fun of it, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's such an interesting like microculture for this like short period of time. So
Sure.
interesting. So if you want to know more, people can just go look it up. If you've never heard of Burning Man, you should definitely go look up stuff about Burning Man.
Check it out. Message me on Instagram. I'll tell you more fun stories, and
Oh my
and if you
gosh.
wanna, go, I'll let you know who I go with because I have some great groups that I've traveled with.
So there you go. You got a little Burning Man in, people. Or are you talking about me?
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know if I'll go, even though I do love the desert. Might not be for me.
Well, I think you should try it. And if you can salvage a week in August, I think you should do it. It's totally worth it.
Super, super hot. Well, I love that you put yourself in these situations where you talked about starting like your freelance work. And I love that you're like, yes, I'm going to say yes. Oh, there's an opportunity. I'm going to say yes. And so it just seems like you put yourself into places where you like create opportunities for yourself and then you say yes to them. And it like takes you off on these like interesting, adventures. And so I think that's a really wonderful quality to just go, yeah, sure, I'm willing to experience that. Let me go try that out, and then you can decide if you like it or not. But you've been to Burning Man like 3 times. So one of the things that you told me about, like while we were talking before, is this experience for you. I think we have these experiences. Well, maybe this one isn't as saying yes to necessarily, but we do have these experiences that change us, like in dramatic ways. I feel like I've had a couple of those, and you were telling me about your experience as a photographer during COVID and how that like just shifted everything for you. And I have a feeling, here's the thing is, um, I think COVID, that time period changed a lot of people. And so, and it's so interesting to hear, uh not just that you changed, but like how that happened. And because some people, it was like, honestly, some people, COVID was like a really great thing. Like it allowed them to slow down. It allowed them, to really be able to reevaluate what they were doing. And, but I'd love to hear more about how that worked for you.
Yeah, I was actually teaching a workshop out in Moab, Utah, when COVID started to lock down things. Almost my attendees couldn't even get home, and my home base is New York City. So when it came down to it, I was wondering, is it even smart to go back to New York City? And I have some great friends who live in Moab, and they said, "Why don't you stay and live in our RV?" And it was me and my business partner Cliff, and we thought, all right. I've always wanted to live in an RV, to be honest. I always dreamt of living on the road. Like, that would be great. And I know this wasn't living on the road. We were parked in their front yard of their house. But I thought, well, this could be fun for a week or two. Who knows? Whatever. Like, going to New York sucks. So let's just try it out.
And oh, how naive we were that we were like, this will pass just like everything else. No big deal.
Here a week or two. We'll figure it out. 8 months later, we're still living in the RV. So it was kind of an interesting experience because we were kind of sheltered. Moab, Utah is like this spot where they have great national parks. Everything is separated, it's peaceful there. It wasn't like being in New York City where it was like, really terrible. So I felt like we were in a good place and we had this ability to like enjoy the outdoors still. So I think in the national parks all closed, so we couldn't go to Arches and we couldn't go to Canyonlands, but Moab is actually quite a beautiful place. They have so many little state parks. They have so many great wilderness we could walk through. And every day, me and my partner would challenge ourselves to go see sunset. So we're like, let's go shoot sunset. And then I would stay and do the stars. And being from New York, I don't really see a lot of stars. I would see, when I traveled. So now I actually had the stars every night. I could understand the moon phases. Like that was something I never really got. Like I know the moon rises, I know there's different phases, but to be in one spot and to be able to monitor how the moon would change every night, to watch how it changed and illuminated the landscape every night differently, to be able to do time lapses of the Milky Way rising. These were all things I dreamt of having the time to do and the luxury of being in a location to do it. But now I finally had that ability. And it was also such a great time for growth for me to do light painting. So I had the nights to try out all my light tools and just experiment. So for me, I really utilized that time because I had no work either. Like, what am I doing? I'm trying to think up ideas for the future stuff, and who knew what the future was going to be. But I used that time to create personal growth and learning, like watching all the YouTube I could watch, going out and experimenting with different camera settings and understanding the way the moon was rising and the stars were setting. It was just like incredible to have the opportunity. And after that, my partner and I ended up buying an RV, buying a truck camper. So now we actually live out of a truck camper half the year when we're living out west, and we can be on the road full time. So it taught us even just about how to live on the road. Like, I don't know if anyone has ever had a RV and a truck camper here. It's a different type of lifestyle, like learning what to do with your Blackwater tank, learning where to park, learning how to drive the dang thing. There's so much to learn. So I have to say, like, COVID changed my lifestyle. These are all things I thought I would do maybe when I retired, but it instantly became part of my reality. And now I've kind of grown and transformed with it. And I'm so glad now that I have this knowledge. That's why I do light painting workshops. And in June, actually, I'll be doing one in Tronan Pinnacles in Alabama Hills in California, on learning how to do the Milky Way, the stars, and light painting in this really cool remote area that I took the RV to and the truck camper to, and was able to like stay in a place that looks like Mars and learn how to light it up and understand how to teach people how to do this. So I feel like we took lemons and made lemonade out of it. It was a challenging time, but we made the best out of that free time that we used.
I love that you were like, that you thought, oh, one day I'll do this. And now you just do it. And I think that teaches us so much. We don't need a COVID or whatever to go do the things that we want to do. So much of what I'm doing now is because I'm like, oh, I don't need to wait to do that. Okay, this is what I want to do one day. What if I could do that now? And do I want to do that now? Right. But I just had an opportunity to go backpacking in South Africa. And instead of like going, oh, I could do that later, I'm like, no, that's happening now. you know? It was a really interesting test of like what I think I'm capable of, right? And so the thing is like sometimes we're forced in a kind of a weird way to learn these things. And then we take that information, like you took the information of the experience and said, oh, now what do I want to do? Like, what if I could live on the road part time or whatever? So are you in New York now?
I'm in New York right now. I just came back from being out west, and I did a workshop. So when I'm out west, I use the truck camper. And thankfully, we have a friend who lets us store it in his property out in Las Vegas. So it's great to have little home on wheels. I go into Death Valley with it. We go to Trona, we go to Sedona, we do all these things. And it's nice to have a little home on wheels. And it's so perfect, I spent a lot of time shopping for it, and it just feels like, it's a great little mobile unit, little command center.
That's fun. I was just out there and I bet our paths crossed because I came out. I know I was out in Death Valley at the end of February
What?
for
Dang.
5 days. And then I was in Lone Pine for 4 or 5 days. And I remember I've not been to Trona Pinnacles, but I had to drive past there on the way to my mom's. I like made a mental note. Trona Pinnacles. Oh my gosh, I can see part of it. Like I need to go out there.
It is a weird, otherworldly, desolate type place. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. So maybe that's where our paths will meet up.
I hope so. And I'm gonna keep you out late at night.
Okay, I can do that for one night. Like I can.
Good.
In fact, my I can do a day trip there ish from my mom's house is fast. So you guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm making plans on the podcast.
Keep me posted.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. We'll have to coordinate that in some way because that would be really cool.
I do wanna go back to something you said about saying yes to everything, because I think that actually is important. You brought up such a good valid point is when you're in this point of growth, saying yes to something, as long as there are things that are pushing you forward. I say yes to so many things that are outside my comfort zone. Like, "Oh, yes, will you do this speaking thing? Will you do this thing?" And I'm like, "Yes," and my heart is like, "Oh my gosh, are you ready to do that? Can you really do that?" And you're like, yes, I'll do it. And then you just figure it out along the way. And I feel like that's part of reaching the next chapter, reaching the next level, unlocking the future goals is putting yourself in those moments where you're saying yes to things that might make you uncomfortable, like career wise, or like, um, I'm not going to say don't do things that are completely outside your zone, but like push yourself to reach those goals because you can do it as long as you practice beforehand and you kind of prepare yourself. Everything is better when you prepare. So, um, as long as it's in your wheelhouse, I'd say yes to a lot of things because then you'll learn so much more than if you say no. No, I can't do it. No, I'm not sure about myself or my skills. That no one ever successful became successful by saying no. You made it by saying yes. So face those fears.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of an art to saying yes. Sometimes we say yes and we're like, "Ooh, maybe that wasn't the best yes," but testing it out, I think is really important. I love that early on when you were talking about your journey, you had a friend that said, "Hey, come do this." Was it a workshop? Like, come
Mhm.
teach with me. Like, you can do this. Like, you can totally do this. And you were like, I'm not sure. But then you said yes anyway. And I just think it's so important to go, oh, yeah, yeah. And we may not even think we can do it. I think the act of saying yes puts us in a place where we allow ourselves the possibility of doing it. And that,
I like that. Well said.
right?
Yeah.
Dang, I'm going to quote myself. Right? And I think that's a great mindset space to be in where we say yes even though we're nervous and but internally we're like, and there's a possibility that it's great, that I can do it. And then we start, as we move forward, that's why the preparation is so important. The preparation helps us build the confidence and shows us that we show ourselves in that process that we actually do know what we're talking about or what we've been asked to do. And you know what? There might be a couple of parts where you don't. And that's okay because you can
Right.
either learn it, you can fill it in, you can find somebody. There's so many options available and open to you in that space, right? What do you think the craziest thing, not the maybe this is like the big life-changing one is the saying yes to the live part-time in your, camper. But, what's been a really interesting, crazy thing that you maybe not crazy, but another thing that you've said yes to that you are maybe a little unsure about and you're like, "Oh, yeah, that was awesome."
So I've been throwing myself into the world of AI. So
Ooh,
everything AI and photography. So everything from listening to every podcast, listening to every tutorial, learning about text to image generation, learning about text to video generation. There's so much to learn. And I'm kind of addicted to learning now. It's just like, what is happening in this new frontier and how is it going to affect our photography, business in general? Like, really, what is going to happen here? And I like to say I'm an optimistic. I think there's a lot of great tools being created that's going to enhance our photography. And I do feel like some photography careers are going to drop off because maybe we won't need them as much if you can generate images or whatnot. There's a lot of things to be said about all of that. But it makes me a little bit uneasy. I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements about it because I don't feel like I know everything. There's no way you can learn anything when it's being generated every day. So I feel like I have to push myself. I'm doing a big presentation a week or so now on B&H about this type of AI and it's specifically about text to image generation and all these different ones. And I just have to say, I'm going to be an expert on what I know. There's always going to be someone who knows more, but I'm going to learn as much as I can so I can share what I've learned and give my take. So there's always that like little bit of fear that you are, what did they call it? Not a, I don't know what the word is, a faker,
imposter,
someone who doesn't know everything.
imposter.
Imposter syndrome. Thank you. Yes, the imposter syndrome. So I don't ever want to come off like that because I'm no way the expert. But like whenever anybody dives into a new field that maybe they don't know everything about, but you want to speak knowledgeable about it, you have to kind of say you know everything until you get to the spot where maybe you know as much as the next guy, or next girl.
So that's interesting because I also think that, like, if you're talking about speaking, maybe you're like, well, I don't know everything. But I also think that we have other skills that can make up for that because when we have this, like, even if it's a small body of knowledge, if you are a good presenter, like, or public speaker, that helps people get the knowledge a little bit easier. Where if you just showed up and you were like, well, I have like a huge body of knowledge, but I don't know how to present it in a way that people can understand it. Or if, let's say, I had this large body of knowledge about a specific area But if I didn't understand how to help people and I was like, "Oh yeah, you just go do your thing." You know what I mean? So there are some
Right, right.
skills that we need to be like educators or to help people. I think there's other skills. What I'm saying is there's other skills that help fill in the knowledge bit. We all have specific, diverse talents that can help us do the things that we are going to say yes to. And we can, if we know what those are, we can draw on them and use them to our advantage to help us out. I think that's really important to do that work and recognize where you recognize those things you are really good at, not just like the knowledge that you have.
Good point. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I also picture you being like an expert dancer. Like you talk about like dancing around people.
I can moves. I mean, maybe.
I feel like you have this like sneaky movement way where you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, like, poof, it's done. And you're like, wow, that's why you wow people when you're out at Burning Man. Cause they're like, wait, you just came and you did all these things. And then all of a sudden, here's your picture. You know what I mean?
I think I have some moves. I think there's some truth to that, but then also sometimes I look like I'm lurking around in the dark, like I lost something. So it's a balance between those two. But yes, I'll go with your answer.
Do you think one of your superpowers, like, I'm just wondering if you know like what your superpowers are? Cause this is what I say. Like, one of my
Mm,
superpowers is like, I'm a connector. So I like connecting people, which is why
mm,
this podcast makes sense for me. Cause I'm like, hey, audience, here's Susan. Come connect with her, right? So,
yeah.
right. So, yeah, right. So that's one of my own personal superpowers. So I'm wondering, like, are you outgoing? Are you able to like reach out to strangers and bring them into your world? Like, how, like, do you know your superpower?
Ooh, that's a great one. What would my superpower
This is
be?
not a question on my form.
It's a great one though. You should have it.
Right.
I would say my superpower is sparking curiosity and creativity in people. So it's as like a little, I'm like a gateway drug for them to unleash their creativity. I would like to say that.
Mm.
So if I could say, here are some tools, this is what you can do with it, go out and do it, and then they're addicted. So I'd say I'd like to be like the spark that creates curiosity and creativity in a lot of people. So, that's what I'd like my superpower to be, like sparks, and my little thing would be like fire would spark from my fingers, like
I feel like we could do a light painting that shows that. I feel like you should do that. Like, you should do a light painting where you've got sparks coming out of your fingers or something, and you're like, "This is my
I do
superpower."
actually have one with balls of fire in my hands. I don't have sparks. I need to get a
Okay,
little
that
bit of, but yes.
you have balls of fire? How do you paint that?
Oh, yeah, I can put balls of fire in your hand. There's fiber optics. So I have, it's a black fiber optic with a red gel, so the tips only turn red, and you can turn the flashlight on and off just so it comes out of your hand. I'll have to share some pictures with you. Yes, I have ones where it looks like fire's coming out of your hands. Um, yeah, but that's a good superpower, creativity, and then I also like your connection. I love that. That's really special.
I'm a
You're a
connector.
good connector.
I am a connector. Isn't that
You
fun?
are.
I like that I know that now, right? And I'm constantly finding out more. I'm like, "Oh, I'm good at that. How could I play into that a little bit?" You know? So that's fun. I could see how you are this like spark because you're doing things, you're showing people things, at least on your light painting workshops, right? Um, you're showing people things that they would have never thought of, like ever. Like, oh, I would have never thought that it's possible that you could create a ball of fire in my hand.
Mm, easily without getting burnt either. And also too, I actually would have to say another one of my superpowers would be time traveling because I love, and not in the unique way, capturing
Mm.
time maybe. In terms of photography, I love creating time lapses because I love watching time move at different paces than reality, like clouds whizzing by or waves lapping up against the shore. And then I also love doing long exposures. So and light painting again is a long exposure. So I'd have to do some sort of play on capturing time in unique ways because I love that ability to do things that are different than just a snapshot. anything that we can do, whether it is long exposures of water moving and looking milky, and awesome, or waterfalls looking very milky white with the waves crashing and such. Like I love capturing time in unique ways. So something like that.
That's totally the opposite of like the photojournalism where you're like, snap, captured the moment, right?
Yes, you're right. Very different.
This idea of capturing a different feeling of time that we wouldn't normally see just with our eyes. I think that's really special. And I know some people do this. I was with a friend of mine. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to do a time lapse of this." I'm like, "Oh, I never think to do that." I just think manipulating time is really fun.
Exactly. I feel like in a way, photography, it becomes more exciting when you're incorporating your own personal touch. And that's a way of doing that. Something that's like uniquely your element that no one else could really replicate. So, doing something with a long exposure, using filters, or capturing a time lapse, you're capturing something that's unique to you that someone with their iPhone couldn't walk by and just capture the same exact thing. Like that's what I'm trying to always think through and kind of encourage my students to do, whether it's on a night photography workshop or one that's just like photographing the Dolomites. Like we go to the Dolomites. Have you been? Dolomites is the Italian Alps if you haven't been.
I know. I feel like that should be my next bucket list thing.
You should. It is incredible. It is incredible because there's mountains, there's lakes, it's pristine, there's delicious food everywhere, there's wine, there's pizzas. It's a Austrian too. It's slightly Austrian, it's slightly Italian. It's just amazing, magical place. And we go there and I'm like, okay, guys, how can we create something that's unique to you guys? Like, what are you seeing here that maybe I'm not seeing, or that Nancy isn't seeing, or that Cliff isn't seeing, something that's unique. And I kind of hope that that's when I say spark, hopefully I'm sparking people to see things in a unique way and then capture it uniquely as well.
You know, I have a full spectrum converted body.
Ooh, okay.
And so I just put a filter on. It's a 720, or I have a 780. Anyway, nanometer filter on my lens, and it basically turns it becomes an infrared camera. And so I feel like that has been a really fun way to get curious about the world, about the landscape, about all kinds of things, and it makes me go, I wonder what that would look like. And it does do something different. It shows this something that we see normally in a different way. And it kind of is like a little soft and magical. And that is actually one way that I personally play. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've never done too much infrared, so I'd love to see your work and be inspired by you. Sounds wonderful.
I turned mine into black and white, and I don't know, I just keep playing with it, and it's been really awesome because I've come away with some stuff. I'm like, damn, that's awesome. That's so much fun. That's going to
Yeah,
be really fun to print, or you know what I mean?
so unique.
Yeah. It kind of makes me see the world in a unique way that I definitely wouldn't normally, because the infrared is like light, a bunch of spectrum of light that we can't see. So yeah, so fun. Well, Susan, this has been really fun. Tell us, I know we've talked about like workshops and stuff that you do, but tell us some more about how people can interact with you or connect with you. What would you like to invite people to do with you, except go to Burning Man?
Yeah, anybody want to come to Burning Man? But if you want to follow me on my Instagram account, it's just Susan_Magnano. We'll link to that as well. And on my websites, if you'd like to join me in a workshop, I'm actually leading a bunch coming up soon. And of course, you're invited to come as well, Brie. But I'd love to invite you guys. I'm going to Slovenia. If anyone has ever heard of Slovenia or know anything about Slovenia, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous location. I go there just for the peacefulness of it. It is like castles in the middle of lakes. It is um, gorges that rival that of New York. Like beautiful, beautiful waterfalls, like peaceful, serene lakes. It's just one of those places you go, like wildflowers all over. It is one of those places you go and you just like feel at ease, and at peace. You're at peace. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful. So if anyone's interested in joining me on a workshop, whether it's in the middle of nowhere doing night photography or a landscape workshop like in the Dolomites or